Be sure to check out Ed's recent appearances on Dr. Telesco's show on YouTube, and also his upcoming November 29th appearance on the Silver Linings podcast. Jonathon Hadden was a 27-year-old from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. He was adopted and had 2 siblings, including a twin sister. In September of 1989, there is not an exact date, Jonathon set fire to his mother's car. The police came and took Jonathon away. He was never seen again. Or was he? I'm Ed Dunsel, and this is Unfound. In the world of true crime, there are a bunch of different ways that people can end up being hosts of their own shows. Some are retired law enforcement who want to tell you all about their prior investigations, but who also want to comment on current ones. There are family members who take it upon themselves to spread the word about their own disappearances and murders. They kind of just get rid of the middleman, I guess you could say. Then there are those people who, are only doing so to hop on a trend like the murder of Gabby Petito, or even in Unfound's universe, the death of Tom Brown. And along those lines, those hosts who only look at their show as a way to move into TV or some position of power within true crime podcasting. Well, with Jonathon Hadden, even though I've talked about my motivations many times, this is a perfect disappearance to explain why I podcast. And now a summary of the case. Jonathon Hadden pretty much had troubles in his life from the start. His bio mother was a schizophrenic, so he and his twin sister were given up for adoption. Then, as Jonathon got older, he started to display some of those same issues as his mother. Trouble in school, trouble with authority, lashing out, etc. His sister and his new parents tried to help, but to no avail. Jonathon had trouble finding and keeping a job due to his mental health, so he ended up getting government support and not looking for work at all. This in turn upset Jonathon's mother, and they had arguments about this up to the very day of his disappearance. So, sometime in September or October of 1989, there are no records to establish an exact date. Jonathon and his mother argued about how she would not take him somewhere in the car. In response, Jonathon went down the street, got some flammable liquid, and set his mother's vehicle on fire. Jonathon stood in the driveway alone until both the police and fire department arrived. The cops put him in the back of their car and drove Jonathon away. His family never made any attempts to visit him or communicate with Jonathon in jail, and he never returned home. But in 1997, his twin sister got a call right after their mother died. Jonathon wondered if he was getting any money. When he found out he was not, Jonathon hung up. No other topics were covered during the call. He was never seen again. Jonathon's family never did end up filing a missing persons report on him until 2024. If you watch the live show on YouTube on Monday nights, you know how much I talk about my trivia team and my need to win. For disappearances for me, I feel the same way. Resolving them is the greatest form of winning, and I am a horrible loser. Contemplate how this competitive attitude can be spread among everyone inside and outside the disappearance community, while you also try to answer these 3 questions during the interview. Number 1, could this disappearance have been avoided if Jonathon's family had gone to visit him in jail? Number 2, does the encounter between Jonathon and a friend of his in 1991 sound believable to you? And number 3, did Jonathon's family miss another opportunity to stop this disappearance before it happened in 1997? From 1997 until very recently, Jonathon's family had no idea what happened to him. But today, Unfound reveals the resolution that came about due to our help. The guest for this episode is Jonathon's twin sister, Joanne. Unfound News. I hope you caught yesterday's Dr. T show where she and I discussed from the disappearance to the discovery of Bo Man, a case whose cause I still waver on from time to time. Foul play, no foul play, somewhere in between. Different theories are still viable. Next, if anything sounds different with this episode, it's because it was done on my brand new, refurbished MacBook. The other one I've put out to pasture, but I think I will get it fixed to have as a backup. Finally, big news in the Unfound world. My assistant, Emily, who has been with me the longest, got married on November 14th. Marriage isn't my thing, but I could not be happier for her. I'm so happy to have on this episode of Unfound the sister of Jonathon Hadden, Joanne. Joanne, welcome to Unfound.
Thank you.
Coming to us the whole way from Canada, correct?
Correct.
Yes. What was, we're doing this interview on November 5th of 2024. What was the weather like up there in Canada today?
It was a little bit on the chilly side, but it's inevitable. The winter's coming.
That's right. The winter is coming. That's right. It's unavoidable. Okay. Thank you for that, Joanne. And Joanne and I, for the listeners, we have a lot to talk about tonight because she had a very interesting phone call just today about Jonathon's disappearance that we're going to discuss a little bit later in this interview. But Joanne, let's start here. Let's just start talking about you, Jonathon. Do you have any other siblings? Where did you all grow up in Canada? What can you just, talk a little bit about your family growing up, including Jonathon?
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, our birth mother had schizophrenia.
Wow.
So me and my twin brother were taken away by social services at a very young age, like a few months after we were born.
Huh.
And we were put into foster care. And then the parents that raised us, the lady couldn't have babies, so she decided to adopt a girl because they already had a boy that they had adopted, so they wanted a girl. So they went to the adoption agency and they saw me there, and the adoption people there said, you don't have to split. You can just take the girl. You don't have to adopt them both. But being the nice parents that they are, they adopted us both together and raised us, and they were pretty nice parents. We had a good family, and and then we were told right at birth that we were adopted.
Yeah.
And we learned, but I was curious all my life about it, but I found my birth mother later in life. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Joanne, I know you don't know this about me, but I'm going to share this with you. The listeners already know this. I'm adopted as well. And I didn't meet my birth parents and my siblings until I was in my 20s.
Wow, good for you.
Yes. So we need to talk more about that maybe later after this interview is over.
Yeah.
Our adoption experiences. Okay. I did not know this about you and Jonathon. Thank you for sharing.
Yes. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So we were grown up together, and my brother always had trouble in school, and I felt really bad for him because he seemed to not get the help from the teachers that he should have got. And I was pretty smart in school, to be honest, so I was always trying to help him with schoolwork and things like that. But he was just couldn't concentrate easily, and he really just struggled with schooling. And so, and then as the years went on, he would just, I just felt bad for him, to be honest. But
Okay.
But,
So you grew up with Jonathan. You got adopted. You grew up with him, and so just the two of you. You two were the only siblings.
No, we had another. We had a brother that was adopted before we were.
Oh, okay.
And his, yeah. So there was three of us.
Okay. Very good. But that adopted brother not related to you biologically.
That's right.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. And where did this all happen in Canada?
Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Let's move. All right. So we're talking about the reason we're here, unfortunately, because Jonathan went missing. So you said Jonathan, had some issues, school issues, etc. Do you, as a kid, do you remember recognizing that, or is that something that was not obvious to you until you became an adult, or how do you remember it?
No, I noticed it as a child because he always struggled in school and he didn't get very good marks, and I felt bad for him. So I was trying to, even as a young child, I was like trying to help him with the schoolwork. But my parents didn't take the time to help him, but I did, and he just struggled. I think he struggled all his life with different things, So.
What about outside of school? I mean, he might not have been doing well in school, but did he have any interests? What do you remember about, extracurricular activities? How would he spend his spare time going back to that time? Even though he was having trouble in school, what was he into?
I think he liked going camping, and he liked going fishing, and he liked to go to the beach. Like, as children, we would go to this place called Grand Beach, and it's like outside of Winnipeg. And it was a beach that we grew up in as children, and we used to play at the beach all the time. And he liked being on the beach, and he liked being outside. He liked the outdoors. But I don't remember of him being in any sports or anything like that.
Okay. And it sounds like you helped him with his schoolwork. Would you say that you two were close emotionally? I mean, you're twins. You're the same age. Were you close? Did you share a lot? I mean, did he ever, for example, when he was having troubles in school, was he ever able to communicate to you why he was having these troubles, or is that something that was kind of not understood?
He didn't want to admit to it. Like, he probably felt maybe embarrassed or something. I don't know. But we always had this connection together, like being twins. Like, we were close at all times. Like, we cared about each other a lot. And he was a funny kid. Like, he'd always make people laugh, and he had a really outgoing personality, and people loved to be around him. But there was times where he wasn't so good to be around either. Like, he had like mood swings, or he'd get mad, or short-tempered sometimes, So I think that caused him problems in life.
Yeah, of course. So, what about, did he have any please continue, Joanne. I'm sorry, please continue.
Oh, it's okay. I think that maybe later in life he may have gotten into drugs and drinking and things like that, and partying and things like that.
All right, we'll get to that. Thank you.
Yeah.
What about guy friends, going back to that time, teenagers? Did he have any guy friends he hung out with? What can you say about that?
Yeah, he had a few friends. He had quite a few friends. I can't remember them all, but I remember a couple of them. But they always had fun together. And I remember one of his friends used to have a dad that flew planes, and they would go on these independent airplane rides, and he really liked that with one of his friends, and he just always liked to be outdoors and stuff like that. So.
What about relationships? Was he taking interest in girls? Did he go out on any dates? Were people attracted to him, or what? What about his private life?
Yeah, the girls found him very attractive because he was a good, smooth talker,
Ha!
and he's a good-looking guy too. And he liked, and he also was good-looking, and he would woo the girls, but he did have this one girlfriend, and I think they got into some kind of an argument, and I think it was 1984 back in Winnipeg. They must have got into an argument. She must have kicked him out for whatever reasons at the time, and he smashed her car window.
Wow.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So we have. How about work? Do you have any jobs as a teenager? What of course, we're going to get eventually to some of these issues that he was having more in depth. But any work, paper boy route or anything like that?
Yes. Yep. He had a flyer route.
Wow.
At one point, and he worked in a bar as a bartender. I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked as a cook as well. As a cook, and let's see what else. Oh, he worked at this place called Loveday Mushroom Farm back in Winnipeg. Mm-hmm. And he was driving I just found this out from my brother that's not related or biological. He had told me that he had a job at this Loveday Mushroom Farm, and he was using a forklift, and he smashed into a wall. So he didn't keep that job for very long. So he really had trouble keeping jobs.
Okay, gotcha.
So, yeah.
All right, and so let's move on to these items, and maybe we should remind everybody, how old was he when he went missing?
Well, that would be 1989.
Yes.
So about 30. I was born in 62. So.
Okay, about 27 years old.
30-something. Yeah.
20, about 27. Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to this. Now you've already kind of touched upon his mental health issues, but maybe you can go a little bit more into depth. Do you think that this was why he had trouble in school? And how would you, as an adult now here in 2024, how would you describe the issues that he had? Would you say that they were mental health was a bipolar issue or a schizophrenia issue? How would you explain that? And how did this manifest itself?
I would guess schizophrenia because our birth mother had schizophrenia.
Okay, right. Okay.
And I looked it up, and it does run in the family. Except other people can get the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I think that could be part of his problem in life.
Right.
And he had a lot of anger issues as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever? I know you were not. At least back then, you were not a professional, medical professional. I don't know what you're doing with your life now. None of my business. But did you ever talk to him about this? Sister to brother. Jonathan. You seem to have some things going on. Do you want to get some help? Do you ever have any conversations like that with him?
No.
No.
I never did. No.
Okay. Any particular?
None that I remember.
Please, none that you remember. Okay. And so these are the issues, and he, to your knowledge, he never, at least before he went missing, never got any help for any of this?
No.
Okay. Of course, we know some of these, some of these mental health issues can be treated with pills or, psychiatry or anything. To your knowledge, he never got any help for any of it?
No. I think he was in denial.
Yeah, well.
That's what I think. Booze and drugs, too, could have been. I think that I thought that maybe it could have been just booze and drugs. It wasn't really. I don't know if I was associating it with him having schizophrenia until, maybe later in life. I think now, but I thought it's just about him partying all the time and stuff like that.
All right, gotcha. Let's move on to this. Now, what about you said he maybe had some issues destroying things and everything before he went missing. Did he have problems with the law? And we don't have to go through anything, just a general question. We don't have to go through every incident if he had any, but did he have problems with the law?
From time to time, but they weren't anything major. They were just small things, like, let's say, driving without a license, or like things like that.
Yeah.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah. Well.
All right, that's fine. Nothing that you would say along the lines of being violent with anybody, nothing like that.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No. If I had to say something about that, I would think more that he would be more of more about hurting himself as opposed to other people.
I see. Well, it's an interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to this now. Now, at the time of his disappearance there in 1989, you and he were living with your mother?
That's correct.
All right. And you maybe just give how was that going? Of course, you're both 27. I don't know how old your mother was. None of our businesses. But, how was that going? How was this, during of course, we're looking at the September, October of 1989 time frame is when he went missing. How was 1989 going between the three of you under one roof?
Oh, okay. Well, I had just given birth to my first daughter.
Wow.
So I was just starting to breastfeed.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was like frustrated with him because she kept telling him to go and get a job because he would just sleep in all the time and not really physically go out and hit the pavement and try to look for a job. He'd read the newspaper and pretend he's looking and being active, like reading the paper to look for jobs, so he didn't actually physically do anything about it to find himself a job. And so my mom was frustrated by it because she was like, you gotta pay your way, sort of thing, right?
Right.
And so that was friction between those two, right? And I think what I remember is that she asked him to go. I just had the newborn, and she asked him to go to the corner store to go get milk, and he refused. And they got into an argument, and I remember him pushing her, so she kicked him out of the house. And then about a half an hour or whatever, how long it was later, some kid comes to the house from the down the block and said, your car, to my mother at the house there, your car is on fire. And so we said, well, to the kid, you better get in the house in case it explodes. And that's when we phoned the Edmonton City Police and the fire department to come to the house. And then I don't know. Well, John had been out in the front yard of my mother's house, our mother's house, and when the cops came, he turned his head and looked into the front window of where we were all inside the house and put a big smile on his face and then put his arms behind his back, waiting for them to handcuff him and to take him away. Probably because this way he's got a place to stay. I don't know. But he had a smile on his face when that happened. And I never saw him again after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for all of that, John. I just thank you for that. And we're going to go a little more depth in that in a little bit. But would you say that the your home was a little tense during that time between you, because he wasn't going to get a job? Was it a little tense under that roof?
Yeah. Yes, it was.
It was. Okay.
I just would like to add something.
Please go ahead.
My brother that wasn't the biological brother. I recently spoke to him recently, and he said that the reason there was an argument, what he remembers, is that he got a job in this area near here called Sherwood Park. He got a job there, but he asked Mom to drive him to this job, and she refused. So that's when they got into the argument.
Okay.
That's the argument that my other brother remembers. So
okay.
Who knows what really, but who knows, right? But anyway, that's all about that.
All right, and I have to ask, was this other brother of yours, was he in the house this day that this all started to happen with the car fire and everything?
No.
All right, so he wasn't there.
Actually, no. They were, yes, the family was in the house because we were having a dinner.
Okay.
There was the whole family. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of people in the house.
All right. The way you remember, of course, you were having a child. Congratulations for that way back in 1989, Joanne. And so, I mean, you had your own life to lead and everything else, but just in general, how would you explain or describe the relationship between Jonathan, and your mother? Was it always like that, or was this something unusual that they had this blow up like this happen, or did they usually? It sounds like she wanted him to go get a job, but otherwise, how did the two usually get along?
Like, he pretty well got along with everybody. It's just that sometimes he had his moments of like being very adamant about his own, like he was uncooperative with doing the things that he needs to do. I think that maybe if he did have any kind of mental illness, that's why he struggled in trying to find jobs, because I think he had troubles with that, for some reason. But,
okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So these are the things that were going on during the course. During the course of 1989, what was it, being that he didn't have a job and everything? What was he doing for money?
That I don't remember, but I'm thinking perhaps social services.
Okay.
Borrowed money from Mom, but she didn't have a lot of money to begin with,
right.
So it frustrated her that he wasn't going out and getting a job, because she couldn't afford to keep feeding him either. So
right, and of
that's
course,
where the friction was.
Of course, he was 20. It's not like he was 15. He was 27.
Yeah.
Right? He's an adult. You know, he's an adult. You know, he should be out there earning his own money and everything, and he wasn't doing that.
Right.
Okay.
And if he did earn his own money, he never did keep the job for very long.
Yeah, right, as you've explained. And I think that you should know, Joanne, I mean, we've done 350 disappearances on Unfound over the past 8 years. We talk a lot about mental health. This is a very common topic for me and the listeners. So they've heard a lot of these things before, and that's why, you know, this is not a new topic. We hear a lot about, you know, people having trouble keeping jobs because of mental health. And the, you know, and going away for a little while and not knowing, you know, nobody knows where they are, and then they come back, and it's a very common topic. So I don't want you to think this is the first time everybody's hearing about a situation like this. So now you've already kind of gone over the quick version of it, that on this particular day, do you have an exact date of when this car fire and everything happened, or is it kind of like forgotten now?
I don't have the exact date, no.
Okay, that's fine. And the listeners will find out why that is a little later. So everything was a normal day, and the way you explained it, Jonathan wanted to ride somewhere. Your mother wouldn't give him a ride, so he went out and set your mother's car on fire.
That could have been yep.
Okay. So go through that again. You said that a neighbor said, "Hey, your car's on fire." And please go over that again for you, so I can maybe jump in and ask a couple questions as you do so. Please explain again what happened there.
Okay, so when he got kicked out of the house, and then he was gone for a while, he probably went to somebody's house, like a personal friend of the family's. I think he walked over to a lady's house, and she said, "No, you can't live here." So then he walked back to the house, because it's in the general same area, walked back to Mom's house and took a jerry can out of the shed and doused her car and started on fire. And that's when we didn't know about it. And then that's when our doorbell rang, and that's when the neighborhood kid said, the car was on fire. So we let him in the house so that if it exploded, we didn't want him to get hurt.
Wow. Now I have to ask, I'm guessing maybe he never set a car on fire before, but had he ever done anything that violent? Of course, nobody got hurt, but ever destroyed any kind of property like that before that was connected to your family, or was that something that was way, 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 way out of character?
He's never done anything else that I can remember. It's just those few incidents.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right, so that car's on fire, and what do? Somebody, I guess you called the fire company, and the police show up. What goes on next?
Well, can I just interject? fire so that he would go to jail and have a place to live.
All right, that's maybe possible. We don't want to theorize too much. All we know is that happened.
Okay.
Let's just go through the facts.
Okay.
We can maybe talk about it a little later, but for now, we're just going to go through the timeline if we could. So then somebody shows up to put out the fire. The cops are there. What happens?
They handcuffed him and took him away.
Wow.
But
All right.
he had his hands behind his back, waiting to get handcuffed, you know?
Did he,
And I
well,
didn't see him again.
all right, so while he's waiting there, did he just wait there? I mean, just stand there, sit there, and wait for the cops to show up, or what?
Yeah, he did. He stood
He
in
did.
front of the house.
He did.
And yeah, he stood right in front of the house, looked right inside the front window of my mom's house with a smile on his face and his hands behind his back, waiting to get picked up.
Wow, Jonathan, I got to tell you, Joanne, Jonathan must have been quite a character.
He sure was.
To do that. All right, so he didn't try to get away from the police. He didn't run off after he knew he did something that was wrong. He just kind of waited there.
Yeah.
Okay. And the police come, they pick him up, throw him in the car, they drive away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the last time you and your mother ever saw Jonathan.
That's correct.
Wow. So I have to, all right, so, I mean, I guess everybody's listening. Nobody's surprised the police took him away, especially since he was waiting for them. And they take him away. You know, when he doesn't come back in a few days or a week, or the police don't call your house saying, hey, your brother needs, you know, or you know, something, whatever, did that not make you suspicious, or did that not make your mother suspicious of, you know, where did he go? What did he do? What were the conversations?
That I don't remember, but I remember that our mom was really mad at him. Like, she didn't want to have anything to do with him. She was really mad at the fact that he set her car on fire. So she did. I don't even think she followed through because of what he did. And I was a new mother at the time, so I was busy with being a mom, and I didn't have a driver's license either. So for me to, let's say, drive to see where he's at or whatever, that would not have happened for me to do. So, yeah. But I did try to find him. Oh, go ahead. I should not say anything.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, was even in your own personal mind, maybe you didn't talk to your mother about it. It didn't weird you out that you know, you didn't hear from him after that. He didn't call the house for a ride or anything. You didn't hear from anybody. Once again, in like that next month, it was like he was here, he was gone. Didn't even try to come back to the house. Didn't.
Not to my knowledge that I can remember.
Wow.
No, I don't think he did.
Okay.
I think he knew that Mom was pretty mad.
Yeah, well, I can understand that.
And
all right, so then are you thinking maybe he didn't come back because of it? He didn't want to come back and have an argument with your mother?
That's what I think.
Okay, that makes sense. And just to ask you another question, even over the next month, let's just stay to the end of 1989, to the end of December. Did you ever hear of anybody seeing him? Anybody say, hey, I ran into Jonathan today, or anything like that?
No.
Okay. No. Okay, so he's there and he's gone. And so the listeners should know we're going to fill in some of these blanks a little later, but we're just sticking to the late 80s time frame right now. So at that time, and of course, you're not responsible for him. Really, nobody's responsible for him. He's a grown adult. But did you or your mother ever think about filing a missing persons report in 89, 90, being that you didn't hear from him, anything like that?
No, we didn't. I don't know why that is. Probably because we didn't think he was missing. We just thought he was in jail. I always thought in my mind he was just in jail.
Okay.
Like, I just thought he was. I really did, and yeah. So, and my mom didn't want to have anything to do with him at that point. So, yeah. I know that is strange, but I don't recall anything like that.
Okay.
So.
All right, that's interesting. So so you don't think, of course you didn't do it, I guess, but your mother didn't go down to the jail to even see if he was there?
I'm not sure. Probably not.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if she was afraid of doing that or not. I don't know.
All right. And given that he burned a car, I mean, if he did come back to the house, who knows what he would have done next?
That's what I think. That's exactly just that. I think. That's
Right.
what I think.
Right. That should be a big. That would be a big.
She didn't want any more trouble.
Right. I completely understand that, and it sounds to me the way you've explained it that things were maybe not going well in the house anyway. He wasn't, getting a job, kind of just laying around, not doing much, and very well may be that although I don't think that she wanted him to go missing, that she was thinking maybe it's just best off that he's not there anyway.
Yeah, and I think she lost his trust in him.
Right. Gone. That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah.
It's like he burned his last bridge.
Right.
Sort of thing.
Right. No, I think you're right. I think that's an interesting way to look at it. So once again, when you didn't, so we go into 1990, and you're maybe thinking it is in jail, but when 1990 goes by, and then 1991, 92, 93, and you never hear from him, neither you nor your mother. I realize you should go to jail for something like that. We all agree that. I don't know if you go to jail for 4 years for destroying a car. But what did you think after at the first part you thought he was in jail, but once you get into like 1991, was that still the thinking? Do you even remember? What was your family thinking?
Well, I don't know about my mom. I can't really speak on her behalf but I always do remember that I've always was trying to find him. Because it's like, this is my brother, and I was really worried about him all the time. And I was always trying to look up phone number, whatever. I don't know what my means were at the time, but I was always trying to find him. Yeah. And I could never, ever find him. It was, really hard to do. It was, really hard. And I knew, that maybe I tried to phone maybe some of his friends and that, or whoever it was at the time. I couldn't get any information anywhere about him, and it was really frustrating for me as a sister, being all worried and that type of thing. So it was sad, kind of sad,
It certainly was, and once again, to reiterate, at no point was a missing persons report filed at any time in the 1990s for him.
No.
Okay. When was?
I don't know if maybe I didn't.
Please.
Go ahead.
Please go ahead. It's your interview. Please, what were you going to say? Please.
Oh, I never really thought of him as missing for the longest time until maybe the last few years, because I just always thought that he was going to call back or come back. But I can't remember when I tried to file a missing report, when it was, but I did try, but I was always denied. Always denied, because you have to hire a private investigator, is what I've been told.
All right. And everybody at Unfound knows how I feel generally about private investigators, even though we just had one on the podcast recently, but that was kind of a unique circumstance. Okay. So I have to ask you, just so everybody, we're going to get to one of the big points of this disappearance. When was a missing persons report filed for Jonathon's disappearance?
It was just recently, thanks to this podcast.
Yeah.
And suggesting that I try again.
Yeah.
This time I called, and they said the same thing again. We cannot do this. You have to hire a private investigator. And then I think I had said something about that he may have a mental illness. Well, there went the phone call to the missing persons department, and now I have a missing persons file on my brother, and I'm very happy about that. I just want to thank you for this podcast.
Well, you're welcome. And let's Let's give the proper props to my assistant Emily, who was the first one to talk to you and bring it up, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
She's fantastic. Emily is fantastic.
It is.
All right,
She
so
really is.
she is. I know everybody who ever talks to her say Emily's just like the nicest and best person ever. I'm jealous of Emily. I'm jealous of what people say about Emily. So so we just the cuteness and funniness aside, just so everybody knows, he goes missing in 1989. An official missing persons report was not filed until this year.
Oh yes, and the date was on Friday, September 27th.
All right, so just a month and a half ago.
That's
okay. So I have to ask. So let's now go. So just everybody knows that. Let's just now go back to the 1990s. Are you thinking that when you don't hear from him for a long time, are you thinking that he's out there somewhere? Are you thinking that he's dead? Are you thinking that he's homeless? Does Jonathon come into your mind much at all in the first part of the 1990s?
I thought of him as being homeless.
You did?
And, because I couldn't find him anywhere. Like, when I looked up, like, it was phone books at the time or whatever it was, and his name was nowhere on with anything. And I'm thinking, if he was homeless, he won't have any whatever devices or phone. Like, there was nothing on him.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
So that's what made me think that he could be homeless. And I tried, along the way, I tried different shelters and different, but, because of the Freedom of Information Privacy Act, I could never, ever find any information ever. So.
Okay.
It's frustrating.
Okay, so yeah. All right, so we have to understand all this. We always want to, something, Joanne, that we always very important to us when we talk about disappearances. We want to know what the family was thinking at the time. So that's why I always ask a question like that. And even the next few or several years, somebody goes missing. Do you think it's foul play? Was it an accident? Did somebody run off? It's a very common question that I ask. So let's move up. Let's first do a story that you heard recently, and then we'll go backwards and go back to this call from 1997. But recently, you actually spoke to, I guess a friend of Jonathon's. We'll just use this person's first name. His name is Ian. And you were reaching out to people who knew Jonathon back at the time, and Ian told you a story. What did he tell you?
Oh, he told me that he came and Jonathon came to visit him here in Edmonton when he had his first child born. And his child was born in 1991, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So in 1991, John was here in Edmonton visiting his friend Ian.
I'll ask you the question. We'll just go through this again. So Ian says that in 1991 he was having a child, and Jonathon kind of showed up right around that time, and they hung out together.
That's right. He said that they were having some beers together, celebrating the birth of his first child.
Okay.
But he said that he was acting crazy, and he said that he thought that he might have schizophrenia.
Wow.
That's what he said to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did Ian's? Of course, we're talking. You just talked to Ian this year, so it's like 30-some years later. Did he remember what they spoke about? Did he remember? Did Jonathon just stay for the day? Did they watch TV? How technical was he in his description, the way he remembered it?
Well, I'll put it this way: I don't know anything because Ian cut me off of our conversations because he just did not want to get involved, which is really unfortunate. So I didn't get many answers from him. So, because I would like to ask, did he look like he was homeless, or how long? Like all those questions, I was not able to ask Ian these things, unfortunately. So, but I do know that he was here in Edmonton in 1991. So.
Okay. So I just want to make sure we understand this. So you reach out to Ian, he tells you the story, and then when you go back to him for more information, he blocks you.
Yes.
No explanation? Did he say, well, I don't want to talk to you anymore because?
he didn't want to get involved.
He didn't want to get involved. Okay.
Yeah. For whatever reason, I'm not sure.
Okay, so he tells you that story, and then he tells you, I don't want to be involved.
That's correct.
Okay. That is weird. Had you ever heard of Ian before you started reaching out to some of the people that Jonathan knew back then? I guess what I'm asking, Joanne, is how did Ian even get on your radar to even reach out to him?
Because I remembered his name.
Oh.
And so I looked it up and I found him on Facebook, and I reached out to him, and we started texting back and forth on Facebook.
Okay. And it was going well, and then all of a sudden it wasn't going well.
That's correct. I think I don't know, I'm just guessing that he doesn't want to get involved because perhaps, I don't know, but I'm just guessing that maybe because he said he was crazy, and he said he's crazy and thinks he might have schizophrenia, and he just didn't want to get involved in any of this. And because he's got kids at home or something, I'm not sure. I don't know. Even
though, once again, I don't know. Even though it's like 30 some years later.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ian. Have it your way. Well, I don't really know if that helps us. I don't know if that helps you out a lot or not. I'm not sure whether I'm supposed to believe that story or not. For example, as I asked you in a prior conversation, Joanne, how did Jonathan even know that Ian's daughter was born? We don't know, do we?
No, we don't.
Okay.
That's right.
We don't know. But that does take us to this story, and this is a story from having in my notes, 1997. Why don't you talk about what went on in 1997? And out of the blue, you get a call from Jonathan, of all people. Talk about that.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Like, the phone rang, and we were about to have the funeral for our mother, and he would not have known about it whatsoever. And it was a pure coincidence that phone call came through to our house at the time that mother had passed away.
Huh.
And he said to me he wanted to talk to Mom. I said, Mom has passed away. And he's like, well, is there any money? And a relative in the background goes, just tell him no, there's no money. So that was probably a mistake. I don't know. But I told John there's no money. And he was saying to me on that phone call conversation that he had Coke cans for feet, and he had bees flying into his ears and swarming around in his head. So he was trying to probably reach out for help.
Mm-hmm.
But we were dealing with the passing of our mother.
Yeah.
But he found out that there was no money, and he hung up the phone.
Okay. I have to ask, do you think it's possible that it wasn't a coincidence? Do you think it's possible that he knew that your mother died, maybe saw an obituary or heard about it, and that's the reason he decided to call? Or do you still think it was a coincidence?
I'm not sure, actually. That's a good question.
Okay. So you're just not sure. No real definitive answer on that.
Correct.
Okay, so it sounds to me, of course it's different, you tell me so. This sounds to me like it was a very short conversation.
Yes.
Okay. Didn't have a chance to ask him, well, Jonathan, where have you been? Jonathan, where are you? Jonathan, how are you doing? Didn't get a chance to ask him any of that.
No, I didn't get a chance. He hung up the phone. I think he was pissed off.
Okay.
There was no money for him.
Okay, well, okay, I understand that. And being that, I still don't know what to think of that, but you're sure that it was Jonathan, you would recognize his voice.
Oh, yeah, it was him, for sure.
Okay. And you didn't get any sense whether he was in the local area or he could have been in Quebec, for all you know.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
Okay, so you He could have been in the United States. He could have been anywhere when he made that call.
No, but would probably be in Canada, though, because...
But just going back to this 1997 call, it's out of the blue. To your knowledge, he never called the house before that since, he went missing. He took off. And it was a very short conversation, and you never heard from him again.
Nope. Because our mother's house was sold.
Yeah.
So that house line would have been disconnected, and I got married, and my last name changed. So
yeah.
even if he was to try to find me,
right,
he would not have been able to find me because my last name changed. But listen to this.
Please.
The brother that we were raised with,
yeah,
the one that wasn't biological, I talked to him recently, and he has not tried to reach out to him, and he has the same last name, and he still lives here in Edmonton, my other brother. So Jonathon has not tried to reach out to his own brother that he was raised with. And he probably, yes.
Okay. Interesting. So 1997 you have that call, and so you saw him last in 89, but the last time you actually heard his voice was in 1997.
Correct.
Okay. And after that, as best as you can tell, people who knew Jonathon, anybody in your family, did they ever have anybody ever come forward to say they had any contact with him?
No.
All right. So what has gone on with you? Of course, your mother, like you said, your mother died in 97. So what has gone on with you and maybe your other brother in all this time? Have you, put a lot of work into trying to find Jonathon? Of course, you all have your own lives to lead, and you put it on the back burner. So I'm just wondering what has gone on over the last 25 years. You thinking about his disappearance. What work have you done, if any? If you haven't done anything until recently, that's fine too. But what has gone on in the last 25 years?
Oh, okay. Throughout all these years, I've been trying many different times to file the missing person report, and I've always got denied. And then I go into the cop shop spontaneously and ask again, and I couldn't get anywhere. I phoned lots of different shelters along the way, and they said because of the Freedom of Information Privacy Act, they cannot give out information, and the only way they could give out information is if they see him there, they can tell him the message, give it to me, and then give it to, give him the message, and then, go through me, they can't give out information because of fraud. So, and then I've also tried phoning hospitals. I tried shelters, hospitals. What else? Let's see here. Social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter. The TV stations. I don't know. I never did reach them. But I did many different. I tried Salvation, all the different shelters. I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different shelters. I tried to go through archives, but I never did go through there yet, or didn't do that. Tried to reach Salvation Army, but they don't help people with finding missing people anymore because of, with social media, and they just don't. And what else did I try? And of course, if you call the jails too, they can't give, and the hospitals, they can't give out information there either. So my hands were tied. I tried so many different things to try to find him throughout all these years, and it was very frustrating for me. And it was on my bucket list to try to find him, whether or not he's still alive, or if he can need some help. I want to help him, or whatever it may be. And it's frustrating for me that what's frustrating about all this, I would say, is that they've got all this. You can't get information to find your own biological family, and I don't find that fair, because it's like the only biological person I have in my family, because I was adopted. So for me, it's frustrating, because he's the only biological relative I have. And I've been denying all these places to try to find him. And that's why I have to say once more about this podcast, I'm very grateful. Very grateful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Right. You're very welcome. And I guess it was it Emily who reached out to you first? Did you contact her? Did she reach out to you?
She reached out to me, and then we set up a time.
Right.
And she talked with me for a lot. And then she suggested try again to do the missing persons report. Right. Because of her suggesting this, I went and did that, and now I have the missing persons report.
Yeah, Emily works magic like that. Certainly she does. That's fantastic. That's why, she's been one of my assistants since like 2017, and that's why she's been around so long, and she does great work. And so I'm so happy that... Do you even know, Joanne, how Emily even found out about your brother? Do you know?
I think what it is I posted a few different things. I'm on different websites. I'm on the Unidentified Human Remains website. I'm also on Canada Missing Person site. I'm also on, there's a few of them.
Okay.
I can't really.
That's all right. There's many.
Oh, there's many.
Yeah.
So, and I sent it, but in Facebook or TikTok, I posted a video with my brother showing his picture, and then I used that age progression thing, and it showed him what he would look like now. And so I put a thing on TikTok, and I also on Facebook as well. I posted something on there as well, looking for him.
Okay. And Emily saw your brother's what you posted, and that's how she reached out to you.
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't know which one it was, but it was either TikTok or Facebook. Okay,
that's fine. And it was on that, so you went and got the missing persons report. And what police department has where did you file the missing persons report?
Edmonton Police Service.
Okay, in Edmonton, in Canada. All right. Now, this is all leading up to a phone call you had today. This is just how things work out sometimes, listeners. On the very day, we've had this interview maybe scheduled for a week or something, but coincidentally, on the day that we're doing this interview, November 5th, 2024, you actually spoke to the police today about Jonathon, and the guy, you only spoke to him for, I think, 11 or 12 minutes, but he had a lot to say. Why don't you tell the listeners what this detective had to say about your brother Jonathon?
Okay, he said that he thought that he was a transient because he was all over Canada throughout the years. Like he was in British Columbia. I said, where in British Columbia? He said Vancouver. That's because he had a driver's license in British Columbia.
Wow.
And I didn't get dates on this. He also frequented Thunder Bay, Ontario.
Wow.
And Winnipeg, Manitoba, where we were raised, is one of the places we were raised together with our parents.
Okay.
And Toronto, Ontario, as well. So he got around.
And
I asked him, did he have any jobs? And the police said that they didn't find anything about him having any jobs.
Okay. So, and when was this, and what were the dates or years on this information that this detective was able to collect? What time frame are we talking about?
All before the year 2000.
Huh.
The last time that they have anything right now to date, but they're still doing the investigation, is up to the year 2000. He doesn't have anything on him after the year 2000.
Wow.
And the police officer thought that was a little bit odd, because he said that it's that he had a mental illness, and he was that he didn't have any jobs that he knew of.
Okay. So I guess what we're saying here then, and I think that's fantastic, and I think that you're going to have another conversation with this investigator, so maybe he has his notes in front of him next time.
Yes.
Right? Okay. I mean, let's not
Yes.
be too hard on this guy because he did talk to you and gave you some good information, but maybe next time he'll have his notes in front of him. But I guess what we're saying is that at least until the year 2000, Jonathon was out there in Canada in a variety of places.
That's correct.
Wow. Okay.
And he was also well known to the police.
Oh, he was. Well, that's not a good sign.
Area. They have on file his fingerprints.
Okay.
And what they want to do, they want the next time, in the near future, the constable would like me to do a DNA test. They have their own special DNA here. And so if there's any unfound human remains, then he wants to do this first before trying to investigate further to see if there's any unidentified or any remains on him.
Right. Okay. Now, you did mention something that I edited out earlier that we're going to talk about now is you mentioned that Winnipeg has a connection to your family. What connection is that?
Well, we were born here. Me and my twin brother were born here. John was born here in Winnipeg.
Okay.
And then at about 7 years old, we moved to Winnipeg.
Okay.
And we were raised there most of our lives, and then we returned back to Edmonton here as an adult. I did.
Okay. And so I guess maybe you were thinking is being that Winnipeg popped up on this list, whatever this police investigator had, that it's possible that when he called you in 1997, he could have been calling from Winnipeg, being that you had family there.
Could have been, yeah.
Could have been.
Oh no, there's no family there.
No family there
There's
now.
no family there.
Oh, okay. I got you.
No, there is no family actually. We don't have.
Okay.
We don't have any family.
Okay, but there was a thinking though he could have called from Winnipeg.
Could have, yeah.
Could have. Okay.
Could have.
I guess what also catches my attention, being that I at least know a little bit about Canadian geography, is that when you're talking about British Columbia, Winnipeg, Toronto, I mean, these are areas that are not close to each other.
No, they're not. They're far, far apart from each other.
Okay.
So, East Coast, West Coast.
Right. So he was doing some traveling somehow.
He sure was. Probably, I don't know. Maybe he was traveling by foot with those Coke cans.
Okay.
Oh,
all right. I gotcha. Now, but of course, the distressing thing is that though there's no records of him after the year 2000.
That's correct.
All right.
But the police officer did say today that if he is suffering from a severe mental illness, which they were aware of, after they do the DNA, first off, they want to do that first.
Right.
He wants to check the mental illness places, but he can only check for the mental illness places here in Edmonton because that's where we are located. But the mental illness places in other provinces, it's hard to get the information and it takes time.
Right.
So if he doesn't find anything with the DNA, then he will check the mental institutions in other provinces.
Mm-hmm. I can ask you a question. Maybe this is something that's come across your mind. Of course, it could be that the reason they haven't been able to track him since 2000, it could be that he changed his name. And I guess given that he was adopted, that is, always a choice. Maybe he reverted to a different last name or something like that. Do you think that the police are going to look into that?
I gave our birth name to the police as well.
Okay, great. Good thinking.
So, but I don't think he would have, if he was on the streets, I don't think that he would I don't know, have the money to do that. I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And like you already said, though, your DNA has not been collected yet, but that is going to get done maybe before the year is over.
Oh, yes. Very quickly. He wants to get that done
Fantastic.
first before he... Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So they have his fingerprints, being that he had run-ins with the law, and then they're going to get his DNA in case there are remains out there that can be tested.
Correct.
Okay, very good. You know, this has been a long time coming, Joanne. Over kind of 35 years to get to this point, and I think you're in a real good spot right now. I, of course, hope that Jonathon is alive and you can have some sort of great reunion here soon. But, what has it been like the last 35 years to know that you saw him, and maybe you saw him after he got taken by the police? And maybe I should ask you about that. Now, do the police have records? Did he spend any time in jail? Did you learn anything about that? Did he spend time in jail for that? Were there charges against him or not, or what?
Well, I'm not sure if I can answer that because he didn't have his notes, but I think that he did go to jail. It was called the oh my goodness, remand center.
Okay.
But I don't know how long that would have been for fire. I'm not sure how long he would have been in there, but no longer. I was told that it would not be any longer than 2 years.
Okay.
In there for that offense.
Okay, very good. So he did end up having some sort of charges against him, and you were just not aware of it.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So
we're not through our mother. The charges were through the police.
Right, through the police. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So what have the last 35 years been like for you trying to get this done, Joanne? Obviously, you've made quite a bit of headway in the last month and a half. You got a report. You're going to get your DNA collected. We now know that, of course, we knew that he was alive in 97 because you talked to him, but it seems that he continued to be around, the area until 2000, until who knows what happened. What's this all been like over the last 35 years?
Seriously, it's really heartbreaking for me, to be honest. It's like losing my other right arm. It's like we were attached, and we were very close, and it makes me very sad that he suffered and I couldn't find him to help him. And I'm so grateful that I have this missing persons report and you guys. It means so much to me because, like I say, I have very little family, biological family members, and I feel there's hope. And this was on my bucket list, and now I have hope, and whether it goes one way or the other, I'll still have that closure, that knowing, because the unknown is drive the person crazy, not knowing.
Yes.
Where sure, it's hell. It really is. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, where's my right to know? Where are my rights to know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and we have to keep in mind, it very well could be that since 2000, maybe he has had troubles with the law, and that's why they can't track him down. He could be in some facility in Canada, and that would be hard to check because of privacy laws. There are a lot of different possibilities. I just want the listeners to know, just because the police don't have any record of him since 2000 doesn't necessarily mean that Jonathon is deceased. It could mean a lot of different things. So...
Correction. 2000. 2000.
Yeah, 2000. Yeah, since 2000. Yeah. Just because they haven't been able to track him since 2000 doesn't mean he's deceased. We just want to be... you come away with one idea from this episode. It should be, we don't want to think that he is deceased. We want to have hope that he's out somewhere, maybe still suffering from the same problems, but maybe Joanne can now track him down somehow. Certainly.
But I'll tell you what, he must have some kind of a survival instinct, because to last all those years on the street is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
That's a lot of years to be on the street, to keep always on the street.
Right. I agree with you.
Like I say, smooth talker.
Yes. So you've talked about your experience dealing with this. What is your brother? I'm guessing you filled your other brother in on all this. What's he thinking about all this?
He thinks it's okay. He's not really for it for some reason, because he's thinking that, I don't know why, he just doesn't agree with it. It's been so long, he just thinks that I'm wasting my time or something. I'm not
sure. All right. Well, Joanne, I want you to know that's not unusual. Family members react in different ways. Rarely is it all the family thinking the same way about what to do about a disappearance. So I don't want you to hold too much against that other brother of yours.
No, not at all.
Very, very common.
Yeah.
Very common. Okay. Do you have a Facebook page, website, anything like that? You've said how you've posted his disappearance in many places. That's how Emily found out about Jonathon. But do you have a particular Facebook page set up for him for exclusively? If so, you can tell the listeners about it right now.
I don't have a special one, just my own Facebook page under my name. But I posted something on there, that's all. But I'm also, But I have something on TikTok as well.
Okay. On TikTok? What would it be on TikTok? What would it be?
Oh, it'd be under my mom's name, because I don't have a TikTok account with me. It'd be under like Nala Ronan.
Okay.
Nala, and then Ronan.
Okay.
Nala Ronan.
Okay. Well, I'm going to suggest. Joanne, I'm going to suggest this to you. Now that you have the police report, being that there's fingerprints out there, being that you're going to get your DNA taken and everything, you really should consider starting a Facebook page exclusive for Jonathon's disappearance. And just put
excellent idea.
Put that information out there. Whatever you have, of course, including a link to this episode when it comes out. And I think, being before you didn't have a lot of information, now you do, you should think about doing that.
What an excellent idea. Thank you so much.
All right, you're very welcome. But I think it's time to do that. And, I realize sometimes Facebook pages get, kooks and everything on them, but still I think the benefits outweigh the bad things that can happen. So I would suggest you do that. When you can. Joanne, any final words before we complete this interview?
I just wanted to one more time say thank you for all your time and energy and everyone involved. It's beyond anything I could ever dream of, and you've given me, with your help, it's given me hope and inspiration, and I'm going to give you guys kudos, and I'm going to be mentioning that on my Facebook page.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's what we do.
I just wanted to say that the police. Go ahead.
It's what we do. We're happy to help.
Okay. I just wanted to say that the Edmonton Police Service said that they would contact me within about a week to give me some more information that is obvious to me. So in a week, I might have more stuff on there.
Great. Well, if you do, I don't think this episode's going to come out until November. Let me go this in my head very quickly. November 15th. So that's like a week and a half from now. So if sometime next week there's more information, make sure you tell me about it, and we'll include it in this episode.
Okay. Sounds
good. Joanne, thank you for all the compliments. Of course, Emily's going to hear all of this, and she's you're going to make her day when she hears what you've had to say about the podcast and about her in particular. But I want you to know that she and I will always be here to talk, to try to help you out. We'll always be here to help. And you ever need somebody that you can trust and be transparent and talk off the record, Emily and I will always be here, even though Emily's getting married here in a little bit, so that may take up a little bit of her time. But other than that, I'm sure she'll always be ready to talk to you too.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, very good.
Again.
You're very welcome. And Joanne, thank you for being on this episode of Unfound.
Okay, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
And that was my November 5th, 2024 interview with Joanne, twin sister of Jonathon Hadden. I thank her for joining me and all of you on this episode. As I stated in the summary section, this is a first for Unfound. We are featuring a disappearance that's resolved, and it happened after I interviewed Joanne. Like I said, this is a first. So I will tell you what happened to Jonathon Hadden. Then I want to explain how this all occurred and what it really says about the help families need. First, the resolution. Very sadly, Jonathon Hadden died in 1997. I guess not long after the call he made to Joanne. He died from a heart attack, most likely brought on by drug use. Given what we learned about Jonathon, and there was no government info on him since 2000, this outcome is not a surprise. Very sad. Yes, maybe not a first choice for some of you, but we had to entertain this theory given how Joanne described him. Was there a death certificate? I suppose there was, but I haven't seen it. Where did this happen? I don't know. Was he alone when this happened? I don't know. If Joanne wants to give me further details as she gets them, I'm all ears. However, that is up to her. She is not required to do so. Then how did this come about? This kind of goes back to last week's episode, the disappearance of Joe Bushling, and my differences with Joe's father, Kevin. If we as podcasters are going to do this work seriously, then we can't simply give families what they want. Why? Because they are often not in positions to adequately determine that. Instead, we have to give them what they need. But we can only do that if we're experienced. Plus, we have to be great, not perfect, listeners. And almost all of the credit for the progress made on Jonathon's disappearance over the past month goes to my newly married assistant, Emily, who, because of her 7 years of experience and her listening abilities, could immediately know what Joanne needed and mapped out a plan for Joanne. What did Emily tell Joanne? You go to the police. You insist that a report be filled out. Do not take no for an answer. You find the investigator who would be responsible for Jonathon's case. You ask these questions. You have that investigator check all government files, DMV records, etc., to find any trace of Jonathon. And from there, the investigator was able to determine Jonathon died back in 1997. I know, not rocket science. Nothing shocking, nothing out of the box. Very simple. But think about it this way. Not one person anywhere, not in the United States, not in Canada, in the past 25 years told Joanne to do that. Emily was the first here in 2024. So just maybe that advice was more insightful and creative than it first appears. Hey, nobody else thought of it since 1997. And to think, someone prominent within the true crime community requested I get rid of Emily this year. Yes, really. What I'm saying is, resolving disappearances isn't always about tracking suspects down, or reading old newspaper articles, or surfing Reddit at 3 a.m. Sometimes, maybe even a lot of the time, it's just starting with the basics. But to know the basics, you have to understand disappearances. You have to know what to do when you hear about them. And that's what Emily did. And, by the way, just like myself, Emily likes winning too. And this is why we, myself, Emily, Carrie, Cherie, Eric, this is why we podcast. And we are all saddened by Jonathon's death. If you'd like to hear and read more of my in-depth analysis into the disappearance and discovery of Jonathon Hadden, please go to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Sign up and partake in the Unfound blog. There's no theorizing to be done, but I hope all of you will still discuss the themes covered in this episode. I'm Ed Dentzel, and you've been listening to Unfound.